Good evening, everyone. This is Ron. Monday, February 2nd, 2026, a little after 6 p.m. Uh, we had a very insightful discussion on yesterday. Pastor talked to us about self-bondage and what that means, and uh, we talked a little bit about what manifestation looks like. We talked about today, looking at it from a physical versus a spiritual perspective. So, a couple other things we discussed in there, but that was the gist of it because it really kind of got my attention that how we speak, how and what we speak, in saying I want or I need kind of. So, a lot was said. See if we have any questions from anybody.
Aaron, this is Angela. I was just reminding Pastor Richard about the title.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. If there are no questions, I turn it over to Pastor.
Yesterday, when we were talking, I made reference to the teachers, and I have been quite hesitant about doing that in the past. And the reason I was hesitant about doing it is because I understand the mindset that we have been indoctrinated with when it comes to talking about the teachers or people who are people in leadership. Um, we have a mindset that they think they are better than we are. Or how come I can't do that? Um, the reason most people can't do that is because they were not called to do that. However, I want to address a deeper layer of that. When we talk about titles, teachers who teach academically or teachers uh, who have the title of teachers because of their vocation is totally different than the one who is a spiritual teacher. A spiritual teacher does not have a title. A spiritual teacher has a responsibility. There are no spiritual titles at all. There are spiritual responsibilities. Pastor is not a title. Preacher is not a title. Apostle is not a title. Bishop is not a title. All of these are responsibilities. And each one of those have spiritual responsibilities that have been abdicated because we have taken those responsibilities and made them titles to lord over people. And as a result of that, people approach us differently than they would approach anyone else. I told a story once about my going to the bank on Monday mornings when I first started preaching. And I noticed how when the bank tellers recognize who you are, if you're a preacher, they call you to the front of the line. There are preachers who wore their suits, especially on Mondays. And I saw Cabelonian preachers as well as Caucasian preachers being called to the front of the line. I stopped. I don't wear a suit on Monday. That's one reason. I stopped going to the front of the line when I noticed what was happening. That's the kind of thing that happens when you have a title, and that title becomes your identity as opposed to your responsibility. And when people are pointed out for their responsibility, there are people who get uncomfortable with that because they wonder, why is it that I can't do that? Well, I had someone who came to me during our Sunday school teacher days who said to me she wanted to teach because if someone else could do it, she could do it. Usually I would have said something slick to her, but I didn't. I simply said, okay, you start next Sunday. Put her in a classroom. She didn't last 5 minutes. Why? Because she was not given a responsibility to teach. Her ego made her think that she could. Are you with me so far? Whether or not, I'm going to keep going anyway. If it were not for people taking seriously their responsibility of unfolding the truth in a spiritual manner, you would not have a clue as to who you are. Knowing who you are comes from spiritual teaching. Knowing who I am individually came from spiritual teaching. And when you know who you are, you have a responsibility. You have an obligation. That responsibility, that obligation is for you to help others see who they are when they are searching for it. When we talk about the teaching as a title, people wear that as a badge of intellect, or making people think they have a thorough knowledge of what comes out of their mouth or what they're asking to teach. And these teachers who are doing it because of their egos are hard to teach because they feel like they know it all. So I reiterate, teaching, preaching, pastoring, apostles, bishops especially, are not titles. They are responsibilities. And I got shut out of a Methodist circle for having said that elders is not a title, and bishop is not a title. Both of them are responsibilities, and the responsibility of the elders is to come together and search for wisdom, or to receive wisdom from our Creator in order to feed the people, and the bishop is to take those. This responsibility is to those who are in, whether they're teaching or are they engaged in spiritual understandings. When a bishop, this bishop helps them with their problems, that's the responsibility. That is not a title. Spiritual teaching, but let me back up. Our church changed when our preachers started going to college and they became arrogant know-it-alls. And they made their positions greater than the position of God. Every year they had anniversaries, not telling the truth about where they came from, but it morphed into a worship for preachers. And when I realized that, I went before the congregation and said to them, you will not have another anniversary for me because I'm not God. And that's how you presented it to the people who came to this service. And in one church in Mount Calvary, they got angry with me. Some of them did anyway. In Great New Faith, they said, okay. So why did I do that? Because at that time, I did not understand who I am. But I did know that the one who I saw as my creator deserved the attention that was being lavished on me as Phoebe and I sat on a stage that was built for us to sit during the service. Spiritual teaching is not church teaching. Spiritual teaching is not Sunday school teaching. The church uses teachers as people, as pawns who are entitled. The expectations of the pawns who they make feel entitled is used against the people. In that, these teachers who look at their responsibilities as a title rather than a responsibility stand before people with their chests out, reading from a Sunday school book and explaining nothing, which means that they have a title, they are in a position of responsibility, and they have no right to be there because they don't know what that responsibility is. For a matter of truth, responsibility of a teacher is lonely, it is difficult, and one of the things that make it extremely difficult is saying that you are a teacher and having folks look at you funny because they are looking at you as though as though they think that you are saying that you are above them, when in essence, what they are really saying is that they feel like they're beneath you, which is totally wrong. School teachers are different than Sunday school teachers. School teachers are teachers who we have come to understand are indoctrination teachers, and they must have degrees and certifications. So, however, there isn't anybody or any institution who can certify spiritual teachers. The certification for spiritual teachers come from an acceptance of a responsibility that you were called to. And as the teachers who we work with, the teachers who teach with me, as we teach, we embrace the responsibility as well as the hardships that goes along with it. We don't do it because we want notoriety. We do it because that's what we have been chosen to do. And the teachers who you receive from spent years and still are doing it, spent years searching to understand the essence of what we are supposed to be relaying to the people. And we have grown to see that all this time, our responsibility is to desire the wisdom from our ancestors so that we can impart within the people who has been sent to our presence. We can impart understanding of spiritual things to them. Going forward, I will not be hesitant anymore about making mention about the teachers. I would substitute that word teacher for facilitators as opposed to saying teacher, because I understood the negativity, the egotistical mindset that challenges those who are teachers. And again, when you know who you are, you have an obligation to help others know who they are. The idea that a spiritual teacher is doing what they are doing because they are embracing a title is a non-starter. Because if you are not receiving an understanding of the wisdom from a case of consciousness, which we know now, we didn't know it earlier, if you're not receiving that understanding of that wisdom, it is impossible for you to do what we do. This does not mean that we are in some lofty position, but what it does mean is that we are servants to everyone who's in search of truth. And we are superior to no one. It's simply a responsibility, no different than the responsibility of an apostle is to gather the people and help them to understand spiritual things and read the signs of the time. An apostle has the responsibility has been defined by megachurch folks, and we have eaten it up. And everything that they give to us, these charismatic churches, gives to us as a definition. We embrace it as though it's from the mouth of God directly. If we are going to continue this journey of spirituality, our egos must be left behind, because ego above desire to learn, desire to understand, is extremely dangerous and will leave you empty every time. Are there any questions so far or comments? Okay. So what I am actually saying to you is, don't feel slighted. Don't feel left out, simply because we are referred to by our responsibility as teachers. Now, the other part of that is this. What we teach it from subject matter. The idea of today being spiritual and today being material, and what the difference is. The idea that depression is spiritual, as well as the idea or concept of suicide, they are spiritual. The 7 senses that ST taught are spiritual. How many of you, and this is rhetorical, but ask yourself, how many of you would have known or heard of or have been able to research anything that we have taught in those areas? The reason you can't fund it is because we are teaching from a case of consciousness. And you know from how deeply it resonates with you that it is the truth. Because it resonates and it answers questions that you did not even know you had. Right now, if I were to say to the 12 teachers, we are going to put other people in our place and let others do what we do. First of all, you would not be able to do it. And that's not boast, that's reality. That's just like putting me in a shop and tell me to rebuild a diesel engine. All I know is that a diesel engine, there's nothing I can do with it. The other thing is we would be abdicating our responsibility. Every single person who teaches were brought into the fold as a teacher by me. And I was hesitant about saying that. Why is it that you can look at this entity that was called Jesus and see how those disciples were chosen and have a problem with how the teachers were chosen? When Jesus, and I'm using this in biblical Christian terms, when Jesus was resurrected, what happened? The disciples hid, and finally they went out to teach. The difference is we did not follow that pattern because we didn't understand then, but we do now, that the Creator or our ancestors are the ones who laid this mantle on us to teach. And I will give you an example about two people in particular. Three. I was getting ready to leave, and when I would go somewhere to preach or take a vacation, people would show up. So I remember being at Foundation, and Barbara had been coming for a while, and I said to her, "I'm going to be going next Saturday. Would you teach that lesson that you've been working on?" And I could see her chuckling at that, even to this day. "How did you know I was working on a lesson, Pastor?" I just knew. Nick and Sheldon were different in that I said to them that next week you teaching, and that was it. And that's how they were chosen. At Great New Faith, I did the same thing. You are a teacher. Why did I do that? Because I was shown that these were the people who were to have these responsibilities on them. And we went years actually teaching each other and doing our research with each other before the Creator brought us together, before the Creator allowed COVID to be the pestilence in the land, to bring into the fold all of the energy that had been supplied or that we had been born with, so that we could travel this journey as one unit. It is no coincidence that all of us came together or were brought together Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. because of the pestilence. And even when we made efforts to go back to those buildings, it did not work out because it was not supposed to work out. We were brought out of those buildings and into a spiritual realm or spiritual space that we did not realize we were occupying until a couple of years ago. So I say all of that to say this. We are your servants. We are not dominators in that regard. We are not indoctrinators. We are your servants. And I have been quite clear about the teachers as well as how I approach things. What I mean by that is we as teachers are harder on each other, and I'm harder on them than anybody probably. Why? Because we want to make sure that what we are teaching is the truth. We want to make sure that during these critical times that we don't faint. We cannot afford to faint. All we can do is mount up with wings as eagles and see with the eye what is before us so we can encourage and strengthen you to get through it by virtue of embracing your divinity and holding dear to it and being the divine, not just on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, but being the divine every single minute of every day, because that's who you are. I want to see if there are questions or comments, because there are a couple of other things aside from this that I want to speak to as well. Right?
I don't have anything right now.
Okay. Any questions? Does this resonate with you?
Yes.
Yes.
Most certainly.
Yes.
Thank you. That is something that we had to get out of the way so that we can move forward because of what we are going to see with our eyes. One other thing that came up yesterday is the concept or the reality of I am. Whatever you put behind I am, as it was said yesterday, is who you are or what you are. The word I am, or the words I am, they are deeply rooted in our divine nature. If you say I'm, which is a contraction of I am, you get a different experience than you do when you say I am. I'm divine, or I am divine. I am God. I am that I am. Instead of saying I'm what I am. It's I am what I am. There is a different experience with it. The contraction of it is a part of the contamination of the I am because of the connotations that I am carry with it. It is a bold statement as opposed to a slothful mentioning of I am when you say I'm. Can you see that? Does that resonate?
Yes.
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 This goes, all of this is incorporated in our speech and how important it is that we guard the words that we utter, the words that come from our mouth. Being intimate with who you are will give you the remembrance to correct yourself when the words are used differently than they should be. For example, I understand the government. That's saying that I stand under the government, which means that the government is superior to me. I understand who I am says that I am under the direction and guidance of the I am, of who I am. That gives me the energy of the ancestors of the universe, of each one of you, for me to be able to do what I do as it is with you when you make the same statement. Is that clear? If
Yes.
there's a question, please raise it.
It's clear.
So, before I talk about this dream that we were in, and mention one other thing about death, I want to be sure that what's being said is resonating with you, and see if you have any questions whatsoever or any comments whatsoever about it, about what is being said or has been said.
This is Vermel. I have a question.
Sure.
So when I said I am tired, then I am bringing that into being.
If you're tired
Mm-hmm.
and you express that what you really are, what you really feel, that's one thing. What I'm talking about is I'm broke. I'm going to lose my job.
Okay.
Those kinds of things are what I'm talking about. I'm trying to make it. I'm in need of so much. I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to survive the onslaught of what's happening now. I am really uncomfortable with what's going on. Am I clear with you guys? Or
I'm
you
clear.
seeing it clearer?
I'm seeing it clearer.
Okay, babe.
Question.
Yes.
When we make the contraction, is it that we're sort of cutting off the intent, or what makes the difference between I am and I'm?
I am is, it's almost like compacting the energy that goes with it, putting it in a tight space. I am is more bold in the statement and saying it rather than I'm is. I'm simply saying that what I'm simply doing is trying to explain a spiritual experience that I have and that some others have when we say I am. I am God, or I am the deliverer for humanity.
Well, I was thinking that maybe it changes the vibration in a way.
There you go. Not in a way in reality, because is it. I am vibrates differently than
Yeah.
It does.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Thanks.
you. That is an
And it's
example.
not, Pastor, does it
Go ahead.
also not, I'm sorry, was someone else speaking?
Oh, it was me. Go
I
ahead.
yield.
Oh, it was somebody else. Okay.
I was just going to say, does it also not serve as a reminder to us that whatever I'm getting ready to say after that, if I think of it as I am, instead of I am just sick and tired of this, or I'm just angry about this, or but if I am stopping to say I am, that resonates so deeply with me when I say that. That is serves to me personally, I can only speak for myself, as a checks and balance before I release the rest of that statement. It serves as a reminder to me to remember you are I am. Before you finish that, you are what? What are you getting ready to put behind that? And so that it just hits differently. Of course, like Audrey said, it does change the vibration, but it also is like a reality check for you because it resonates deeply, and all of a sudden you become aware that, whoa,
It's a
what was
pause.
I about to say, or what was I about to read? Yeah, it's an opportunity to pause.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Who was speaking about you? Who yielded?
This is
Okay.
Barbara. I was going to say a very similar thing. The I am is more like the role, the entity that I am, whereas I'm is less of a is a reflector rather than speaking to what and who I really am. So I'm without saying anything else. I think it was Kathy. That's exactly what I was thinking as well.
Okay.
And the vibrations are totally different.
Thank you. Is this resonating with you guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can I back up a minute
Of course.
and say something about the teacher? I wasn't going to say this, I guess. I just want to make sure it fits. But I remember when we first started coming together, Greater New Faith and Foundation, or especially when I started driving to Columbia, one of the things I noticed was the difference in the classes. Uh, the energy was different, the need was different, I suppose, because you could look at the same scripture and it would be taught different, or be said different. Different things would come from it. And I got note of that. That stuck out to me. And one day, Kathy and I were talking, and she saw the same thing. So I remember when we all started coming together, and I mean, pastor and the teachers, uh, seeing how everybody saw things was very important to me, and to look at who we are, and I remember what it felt like when we all came together. And I mean, not to say that we still don't have our different visions, but it went from something that was apart from me to something that fits. And, and me thinking now I am more enlightened than anything because I'm connected to everybody. So what I'm trying to say is there has been an intimacy that has grown not only with the teachers, I think, but with all of us, especially on this phone, since that has started in 2020 or whenever it was, uh, that there is an intimacy that I don't think we could have gotten any other way. And a lot of things I hear or see that we talk about, I always think about a mother and a child. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think a mother is the perfect example of pure love because she's not separated from the baby. You call her a mother, that automatically tell you there's a child. So she becomes the teacher. She becomes the servant. She becomes whatever is needed. And it is not something that is thought out, oh, today I need to do this or that kind of thing. It is, I am that I am. This is what I do. I'm a mother now. And that it becomes priority. So that to me, of course not at that level, but I kind of liken it or compare it to the intimacy that I feel on this phone when we get together and have discussions, especially when somebody trusts the group enough to open up about something that's personal and how much they're embraced. I think all of that is increased and helps our intimacy to grow. So when you talk about pastors and teachers, and I don't separate any of that from the questions or the comments that comes along, because all of that to me is part of the mother-child experience. And I'm not saying anybody's a child. I'm just using that as an example. But anyway, I hope that makes sense. Well, I hope it resonates, excuse me.
Thank you. I get what say, do you now? Um, Thank you, Ron. I see the use of that example and what we're talking about. Um, it's funny that we don't have the same proclivities about a position or a title when we talk about pastor
Mm,
as we have when we talk about teacher. You see the difference? It's like we accept that, no, I'm not the pastor, but it's different type of acceptance or rejection, whichever one you choose, when you say teacher. And it could very well be cultural
yeah.
because we came through a time period, excuse me, when you were a teacher, preacher, or undertaker. That was pretty much it. So that could be cultural. And it's something that we need to separate ourselves from so that we can remove any possible obstacle that could short circuit the energy flow. Comments, questions?
I want to comment about what Ron just said about that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line is without the questions from everyone, the teachers can't teach. In other words, we can teach, but you're not effective if you're not addressing the need of the individual who has the need.
Yeah.
You would be putting something out there, but so it's like that adage that says that as much as the calf wants to suckle, the calf wants to be sucked. One requires the other, and vice versa.
Yes.
Yes. And nothing would be put in the macro, really.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who gathers are drawn for a reason. And every question you raise, the response and the question are in the macro. So that's one of the things that we can look at and understand the reason that we raise questions from so many different angles or about so many different subjects, because we are representative of the whole in terms of this desire to know thyself. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
One final thing.
Sure,
One
go
final
ahead.
thing. I'm not sorry. One final thing. Uh, every time we talk about I am, it takes me back to this thing about blasphemy, which is separation from source. But it makes blasphemy such a personal thing to me when we say that we deny who we are, because that's a separation from source as well. When we say that we are anything other than deity and other than being one with the source of all creation, that's blasphemy, and that's why that is so important. It's not what we used to think of as blasphemy. You know, you're just using those words in vain, blah blah blah. It is more. It's deeper than that.
Yes.
And when I deny who I am, I separate myself from who I am. So I'm more lost than anything when I separate myself from who I authentically am.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all of those days, Barbara, and the rest of you guys, all those days that we spent meeting and the trips that we took to Philadelphia for our enclaves, all of that interaction was preparing us for what we are doing now. And where we are now, I will say this. There is nothing to go back to, because there's nothing we left behind other than a dream filled with nightmares. And that preparation has been made, and the turmoil, the chaos that is taking place now would never have done that. And we would continue being asleep as opposed to being awakened now. This dream. Yesterday, I spoke concerning this material world being a dream that we are stuck in, or that we are in. And after I had gotten off and I revisited the experience, I was shown something that we are in the world, but not of the world. We are in this dream, but we are not being shaped by this dream. This dream that we are in, this nightmare that we are experiencing, is not a distraction any longer. The understanding of today in material terms helps us to see the reason time was important, or still is important, because in this physical realm, we had the time to process something that we did not realize was being processed in the now. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Everything that we process appears to travel from one day to the other. When in spiritual understandings or spiritual terms, it is we are processing in the now at every turn. This dream, if you can, however it takes you to see something in your mind by closing your eyes or focusing or whatever, if you can see a room filled with people And in that room, there's artificial light. Someone has flipped the switch and there's a light burning in that room. And these people in this room are bumping into each other. This is the chaos. And someone in that room realizes that there is more to us than being in this room. And that person opens a closet in that room. And it is completely dark in that room. And one spark of light in that room becomes a flame. And that person is able to take that flame with them and realize that as it moves through the chaos, it's experiencing order from within. And it sees a doorway that leads to another place. And they walk through that crowd with that flame. And the more they meander them through that crowd towards that door, the more peace they begin to experience. But still in that dream. And when they get to that door, they cross the threshold. And all of a sudden, only thing they see is light. And they cannot even see the flame anymore, neither can they see themselves. Because they have stepped out of that dream into reality. Are you with me? Are you seeing the example? They step into reality. And now that they are in this space of reality, something else happens. They realize that they are not in this reality for themselves. They are not enlightened for themselves. They are not experiencing this spirituality for themselves. They are not experiencing the power, the energy, the vibrations for themselves. They realize this is medicine to heal the chaos. And experiencing that, they step back in the room and they find something totally different. They are in this world of chaos, but they are not of it. Because when they step in this room, they realize that they did not lose anything of their experience with the light. And they begin to see that the chaos that they are in the midst of is not a distraction to them anymore. And they don't have to go to that closet anymore because what was in that closet has become who they are. So they are in this nightmare of a dream, yet at the same time, they are not influenced by it. So the uneasiness and the chaos they experienced before they opened the closet door is no longer there. And the more peaceful they become from within, the brighter they become in terms of the light that they are. And now others can see them because the light is on. Not the artificial light in that room, not the religion in that room, in that building, in that dream, but the true light that they see. And now that light is in a grocery store or a drugstore, and someone walks up to them and cries in their arms. They've never met them before. Why do they do that? Because they see that light not with their eyes, but with their pain. And that light in the midst of that chaos can only be of service to those who living in this chaotic nightmare when they themselves find peace within. And the more peace that you find within, the brighter your light becomes. And eventually, what happens is you begin to step outside of that door into the light often. And you see something. You're able to see the difference between time and space. The difference between physicality and spirituality. You're able to see what is, and what is that you see is the light of reality. And what you are experiencing in this chaos no longer affects you, so you know that you are obligated to not bring light into that space, but to be the light for that space. And more people begin to see you, to see who you are, not with their eyes, but they have experiences when they get close to you and they say, I know something is different about you. I can't put my finger on it. And they call you even though they don't like you, and you help them get through times that are difficult. This is what I'm describing is being in this world of chaos, being in this chaotic dream, but not being influenced by it. You feel the pressure of it. You experience it, but you do not allow it to become a distraction to you. Why is it necessary for you to feel it? So you don't forget where you came from. You don't forget what you've been through. But you remember where you came from the beginning. And your greatest desire above anything else is to guide those in the midst of that chaos to the same space where you found true peace. That's what we are doing. And every time that we lose sight because of what our eyes are seeing, step out of the room. Leave the room, cross the threshold into the light. That's our meditation. That's our reminder of who I am.
Yeah.
Cross the threshold and refresh yourself with the light and enter that chaos. And now you see it, but it does not distract you. The agony of the crying, the gnashing of teeth, the agony of the pain within that room is the motivating force that keeps you stepping out of that door, stepping across that threshold, so you can be enlightened even more for the benefit of those who are in that room struggling. And eventually, what you begin to see is there are those who have made a decision to follow you out of the room. And they cross the threshold with you. And they have that experience. They taste peace. They taste joy. They see balance. And when they step back into that chaos, they find that they are different than what they ever have been. And when they step across that threshold again, they find something else. That they are not what they were in that room. They have always been the light. And that light has been forgotten because of the chaos because we've been seeing with our eyes and thinking with our minds as opposed to seeing with the eye and processing with our souls. And this continues to grow. And what we find eventually is a group of people who are on a Zoom call 3 times a week so that they can dispense with the chaos that was housed in them. And stepping out of that room, stepping across that threshold, when you step across that threshold, you see the peace that you have been looking for to be manifested. Why? Because across that threshold is the now. In that room is the time to get to now. And that's where we are. We are healing people from the chaos of the chaos and pain in that room. Are you able to see that? The difference between where we are and where we have been, and our going back, our stepping into that room constantly every time we are awake or sleep in order to bring people to a place of peace.
Yeah.
Comments, questions? I'm looking for clarity.
Thought that was a great example. I like that. I see it.
Did the rest of you guys see it?
Yeah, I do.
It
It
resonates.
resonates, Pastor.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why you always, I mean, you, Kathy, and other people always say, I be going to these, like Walmart, any kind of place, and people just come up to you and go to talking, and you be realizing, what are you talking to me for? You are the truth, and they see something in you that you can give them. It's just like when I met this man, and first thing is he always asks, is you the pastor? I said, no, I'm not the pastor. And he said, oh, you're a deacon? I said, I tell you what, what I am is whatever they need me to be.
Good.
And that's on where I leave it.
Thank you, Joe. Anyone else?
You used the term earlier that I had never heard you use before. You may have said this before, but you talk about being intimate with who you are. I like that. We talk about prayer, meditation, and being with ancestors, but I never heard it put quite like that. That was, anyway.
That is one of the most effective ways that you will ever be able to hold on to grasp the essence of what it means to be God. When you're intimate with self, you come to a realization that there's nothing too hard for God. There's nothing too hard for you. You come to a realization that you cannot be broken and you cannot be bent because God doesn't bend. God just be God in the midst of whatever. When you're intimate with yourself, you birth within yourself an understanding of you and your responsibility as being God in this earth. The day will come soon enough when we will no longer have to be intimate with ourselves, because we will be in a place where not only will we completely know our true self, but we'll be able to see our true self and get a taste of what it truly feels like to be pure spirituality without having any contamination from being in this chaotic world. That time leads me to what else I want to mention tonight. That period of the end of intimacy in this physical world is the time when we become more cognizant of the unicity of our being. We become more aware of what oneness is and what it tastes like, what it feels like. What I'm talking about now is death. The scripture says, and Enoch was no more. The scripture says, and Moses was buried on the backside of the mountain. What does that mean? When your work is done, your task has been completed. Men will lay your body to rest. But the ancestors will carry you to the mountain of enlightenment, and you will be buried on the backside of that mountain of enlightenment, meaning that you will be entombed in a place of wisdom that no man returns from. Death is not a bad thing. Death is walking out of the dream, walking out of the chaos, is exiting the dream. And at the same time, you exit the dream, you exit the body. This thing called death. I know some of you, I know I have been trying to understand it for years. And I don't know how well I can articulate it, but I know what I see. I see a body, not in that room of chaos, a body that's in a place of peace, bathed in light, having the light in it to exit it through the doorway that's been provided by the ancestors, and joining hands not in a physical way, not interlocking in a physical way, but becoming one with the light that is covering the physical house that you once lived in, and carrying you, guiding you to a place on the backside of the mountain, the place of wisdom, that place where you will be able not only to be an ancestor, but be a vital part of the lives of those who are still housed in these bodies, searching for themselves. Death is exiting the dream. We die twice. The first death is when we exit the lie of religion that we have been told. When we cease to worship a non-existent God. When we make a decision that wisdom is not found in theology, we are wisdom. That's the first death. When you purge from yourself this reliance on a non-existent Jesus to come back and get you. The lie of a rapture that makes absolutely no spiritual sense or logical sense at all. That's the first death you die. When you find out that the pulpit is not holy and the communion table is simply a piece of wood that's being worshiped. That communion itself is cannibalism. That's the first death you die. And when that death is done, it is when you see yourself. That's what ends the death. That's what brings you to the life that you ought to be in the earth. That's the first death. Remember how painful it has been for you to wrap your mind around Jesus not existing? That the scriptures are an allegory? The second death is when you walk out of this body and walk completely away from the dream and live in reality until the time that you're chosen to enter the earth again, if you choose to. Tonight, this evening, my desire for you is that you make every effort to live outside of the chaos, even though you're in the midst of it. To process with your soul and not your mind. To remind yourself that you are I am. And I am what I am. I am everything that humanity needs. In order for humanity to be liberated, I am all of that and more. With that, I'm finished. Unless there are questions or comments.
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I was thinking about that more, and I did a little bit of digging about the saying I am versus I'm. The am is the Aleph Mem.
Yeah.
Aleph means unity and oneness. So if we say I'm, we sort of leave off the vibration of the unity with the whatever we add after it. So when Barb was talking about blasphemy, and I was thinking about long time ago, we were talking about blasphemy related to breath. So when we use the I'm as opposed to the I am, our breathing changes too. So, so that's where the vibration comes in. We are vibrating with the Aleph, and we're breathing according to the vibration. So, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that's the importance of saying I am versus I'm.
Yes.
We are in unity with whatever we add on to it behind it.
Yes,
And it's an intention.
absolutely. Audrey, in addition to that, the scripture says that life and death is in the tongue.
Yeah.
I'm is an example of the death that's in the tongue. I am is the life that's in the tongue.
Yeah.
For those of you who didn't understand what I meant about I am or I'm is the death. I'm is the death, meaning that you've cut the breath off. You've cut yourself off from the spirit. And now you don't have that pause that's necessary for you to take instant inventory of the next word that you are about to utter, because it makes the difference between you creating an environment of hell for yourself or creating an environment of peace and harmony.
Yeah, because the mem means either trial, or it can mean flowing water.
It-
So depending on how you say it, you're setting yourself up for either trial or flowing with the unity of things.
And it's on either side, because the mem is the middle letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And that choice, that trial, or that choice of flowing with the water, flowing with the spirit, recognizing the unicity of water and spirit, makes a difference. All the difference in what your tomorrow looks like. Thank you. Ron?
Okay. Thank you. Awesome discussion. Good place to pause and appreciate everybody. Appreciate your energy. I'm sorry, question, comment?
Now, this was Angela. I just wanted to share something, if I could. I was at Walmart this evening, and I was leaving out, and I stopped in my trash. He was a man that was sitting on the stand where he was sitting down on the side, and I said, you used to work. I went up to him. I said, you used to work such and such, and he said, yeah. He said, I used to be smaller. Then I said, is your name Roy? And he said, yes, that's me. Then I said, you look familiar. But then when I walked off, I said, Ancestors, I don't really know that man. But it's just the small things that kind of ancestors communicate with us. But I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Anyone else? Thank you, Angela.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, again, a great discussion, great energy this evening. I hope have any questions or comments, please send Pastor a text or write it down, and that's where we'll pick up on Saturday. Okay. Hope you have an awesome week. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Bye. Have a good evening.